Hey there, Banditos! Welcome to a new Friday episode of the Dollar Bin Bandits. I am Joe Marcello.
I'm Mike Farah.
And as always, let's not forget to thank our new sponsor, TwoMorrows Publishing. That's TWRMORROWS.com, and all their fine publications. We are thrilled to be partnering with them, and we look forward to all the greatness that we have in store for the year to come. And today we're bringing you an interview with another returning guest. We're talking about none other than Sy Barry. Sy is a absolutely fantastic artist. We say that all the time, and we're right every time, really. But Sy is a fantastic artist. You may know him from his most famous work, The Phantom. But today we get into a little bit different type of topic. Mike, why don't you take this one?
Yeah, Orrin and I interviewed Sy and his son David about an upcoming charity auction they have going on July 1st to July 8th, where they've gotten art from a number of different comic illustrators, as well as Sy himself. And they're putting it on auction all to benefit the kids that are fighting cancer at the Dana-Farber Jimmy Fund Clinic in Boston, Massachusetts, my backyard. So we really get into why this is a special charity for Sy and a little bit about why they wanted to do this auction, you know, how people can participate. They are certainly looking for more artists to make donations. And of course, for those that are fans to bid on these auctions. So let's get to it. You'll hear a little bit more about the charity as well as Sy and his career, because we get back into that a little bit. This is Sy Barry and his son, David.
And we have the absolute honor and pleasure to have Mr. Sy Barry back today with his son, David. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time.
Glad to be here.
Thank you.
So you have a charity going on called Draw for Life. Could you tell us a little bit about it and how this all came together?
Do you want me to?
Yeah, you do.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for having us, by the way.
No problem.
My dad has, there's a very large hospital up here in the Boston area, cancer hospital by the name of Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. And they have a children's wing called the Jimmy Fund Clinic. Some of you might remember going to the movie theaters as a kid. And before the movie started, the ushers would walk around with a can and looking for donations to the Jimmy Fund. And my dad, as it turns out, has multiple myeloma, which is a form of a blood cancer. Thank God it's not very serious and it's under control.
Yeah.
So he is not only a patient of Dana-Farber, but he's also been there a couple of times to do chalk talks with the kids in the Jimmy Fund Clinic,
Right.
which has been a great experience. And it just sort of came to me that it would really be nice to do something to kind of give back a little bit. I had an idea to put together an online artist fundraiser to raise money for art-related programs at the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. And I've been able to get together probably 25 different artists who have donated some of their work. You might recognize Alex Saviuk, Keith Williams, Chris Nye, Tom Morgan, and some, because of my dad's association with the Phantom, we also have about probably 10 Phantom pieces that we'll be auctioning as well. We've got some, we've got the Joker by Joe Giella. We've got, oh gosh, well, Alex did a really beautiful Spider-Man for us.
Nice.
We've got a Spider-Man by Tom Morgan as well. So we've got a good group of artists, and one of the reasons why we were interested in talking to your listeners today was to not only encourage them to participate in the upcoming auction, but to also see if there were other artists who might feel strongly about the cause and be wanting to make a donation of their own. So this online auction is going to be held starting on July 1st, and it's going to run for 1 week through the 8th. And there'll be no restrictions on any of the bidding on the artwork itself. We're just leaving it up to the fans to bid up the artwork and see what we're able to do. So we're really looking forward to doing that at the start of July. In fact, my dad just handed this to me. I don't know if you guys can make it out.
It's a,
Oh,
It's
it's
a
him,
little
the
blurred
it
because of
looks
the
fuzzy.
background.
filter. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
How about,
No, I think I've got the background screwed up.
yeah. Oh, that's too bad.
All right. I was just going to show you his
It's
his drawing that he's
a
doing.
phantom crashing through a door.
Nice.
Yeah. A little
Right.
action.
A little
Right.
action shot.
Right.
Nice.
That's right. So, yeah, that in a nutshell is what we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it sounds like a phenomenal event and charity. And before we get on to more questions, I wanted to give you the opportunity to let any artists out there that are interested in donating know how to contact you or where to go.
Oh,
Absolutely.
oh, we'd appreciate that greatly, really.
Yeah, so they can always reach us at our email, well, through the website, which is www.drawforlife.org. And our email address is dfl.dfci@gmail.com.
Awesome.
But if it's easier, you can get to us through the website. And really, the only requirement we have is that you send us a scanned image of the artwork that you're going to donate, as well as a brief bio and a picture of yourself, so we can talk you up on the website and take it from there.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. We hope that a lot of artists take you up on the offer. As I said,
too.
just sounds like a phenomenal way of giving back to
Right.
some kids that are going through some really tough times.
Absolutely.
Is this the first year you're doing the art auction?
Yes, this will be our first. So, I'm a little nervous about all of the mechanics, but hopefully everything will go pretty well. We're conducting it on eBay, so people are familiar with that platform, and but it's been an interesting journey over the last 6 months or so.
And we're hoping that everyone out there will help us make it successful for those wonderful children.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear from you. What does this mean to you? What does this charity mean to you? What does this event mean to you?
It means a great deal to me personally, because I had started with my problem back in New York when I was living there, and I continued here, and I was referred to Dana-Farber, and it sounded like an institution to me, and I was kind of wary of it. And from the first moment I got there, they are so kind and so efficient, and cover every area of my problem, and they just make you feel comfortable and hopeful, and they have improved my health. They've improved the condition. I swear by them that they are a wonderful clinic, and they do a marvelous job for the children, and they've done wonders for me as well. So please, everyone, if anyone has to use Dana-Farber, unfortunately, those that have to, just for their sake, please help us as much as you can. It's a wonderful institution.
I was gonna say, as somebody who lost a dear friend and also a father and an uncle to cancer, I know how important it is to have funding to help fight this awful disease.
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about some of the artists. I mean, Keith Williams,
Yeah.
former Phantom artist, one of the nicest people you're ever going to find.
Oh,
Truly
yes,
a road warrior. You see a convention, Keith Williams is going to be
He's
there.
there.
he's everyone is a,
I don't think
and
he misses one of
he's a
them.
friend of mine. He's such a sweet guy. He's a wonderful guy.
Yeah, and Alex
Very
Savior
friendly.
too. I think he's one of those artists that, you know, you see his work everywhere, but you don't always know that it's him.
It's him.
But you know, for me, it was the Superpowers action figures. He did a lot of the box art for that and some of the comics. So, how did you get in touch with all these guys? And were they more than willing to jump in
They
right
got
away?
in touch with me, actually.
Oh wow!
Yeah, they sought me out, and there are a couple of fans of mine who are very dedicated fans, and they are in touch with collectors and artists and far more than I am, because I just don't have the capacity to reach out to them like they do. So they've referred so many of these artists to me, and they've been delighted. I've made friends with them, and I mean Saviak and Williams, and of course Joe Giella has been a friend of mine since we were 15 years of age. We went to the same high school together. Unfortunately, he passed just recently, but we were very, very close friends, Joe and I. We worked together and worked through the nights together on deadlines. And so these artists really reach out to me, and I'm so grateful that they're doing this, and they're so kind to give of themselves to a wonderful benefit.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. I'm also glad that some folks like Chris Nye who put together a beautiful Submariner drawing for us.
Oh.
His day job is in aerospace, and he tinkers with illustration. It's a great way for him to get his name out there,
100%.
Yeah, so I'm glad we have guys like that on board as well. And between any of the, I had to do a little bit of cold calling, and seek out some people who had never met me before, but might have known my dad through the industry.
Yeah.
So it's been a combination of people coming to my dad and helping out, and then me doing some work on my own to recruit.
I had many friends in the field during the golden age of comics, who are gone now, and I wish this was many years earlier, that I could have incorporated them into the effort, because they would have gladly done it. I have good friends with many of the DC artists, and at that time it was called Timely, but now it's called Marvel. But I knew many artists from there. They're all gone now, so I would have had so many more volunteers. Just sad that it's at this period of time.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about some of the art that's going up for auction, and I'd love if there's anything you can expand on. And we heard a couple Spider-Man pieces, Submariner. Surely there's a lot of Phantom in there.
There is.
What else can you tell us about some of that artwork?
Well, actually, the first thing that comes to mind is that Alex Saviak has donated a Stan Lee, Joe Sinnott, Alex Saviak compilation.
Oh yeah.
I believe it's a Sunday strip, if I'm not mistaken, which is really nice.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I think the nicest thing about this is that we got some grassroots cooperation from some of the guys who were with the National Cartoonist Society, specifically out of New York, because that's where my dad had been active. Joe Vascelli is one name that comes to mind, and it may not ring a bell with you guys, but we did get some support from the National Cartoonists Society as well. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's the artwork is coming from a lot of different places.
Mm-hmm. I'm wondering about with artists and stuff like that, and aside, there's a very elite group of artists who've worked on the Phantom. Do you guys ever keep in touch with each other? Is it sort of like a circle, or you guys just do your sort of own thing?
The artists don't really communicate with one another.
Okay.
Or at least not with us.
Not with us.
No. Gotcha.
The only one I did associate with, and he did Mandrake, was Fred Fredrickson. Okay, Frederick. Okay. And he and I think he lived up in Truro, Mass. And he and I communicated. We also did a joint piece of art for I think it was a record company. I believe it was a record company, a record of a story that Lee Falk had written, and the voices are on the record, that kind of thing. And it had to do with a joint effort by Mandrake and the Phantom. So we did a joint picture of them working together. So he's about the only one from under Lee Falk's writing that I communicated with.
I also think that if you were more involved with social media and more,
I wasn't.
How do I say this? Like if you were handier with your computer, you might be in touch with guys like Graham Nolan and Mike Manley, and well, he does stay in touch with Keith Williams.
Mm-hmm. One of my few,
but yeah, it's one of his few
disabilities. I'll call it that. Right.
But I think that those guys kind of stay in touch to some degree.
Most likely, yeah.
I think so.
And I think the other thing was that when my dad lived in New York, he was very involved with, they called it the Burnt Toast Gang.
Mm-hmm.
It was a branch of the National Cartoon Society. It was the Long Island branch of the National Cartoon Society, and we had between 25 and 30 members of the. In fact, more. We even have more. And John Buscema was one of our members. Mort Drucker, mm-hmm. Johnny Ramita was part of our group. In fact, Johnny and I worked up in D.C. at one time. He came in later. I was in the romance department at the time, and he came in and developed a romance style too. And so, Johnny was a co-worker up at D.C. with me. So I knew quite a few guys who. Many are gone now, but I would have loved them to have been alive and contributed, because I think it would have made it even more exciting.
Yeah,
I'd love to, if we could, segue to a few more career questions for you, Cy, and we can certainly return to the charity at the end, but. I didn't have the pleasure of talking to you the first time, and so some things came up after I listened to the interview. You talked a little bit about, in the previous interview, about drawing or penciling versus inking, and I know you said you prefer when you had the time to, do it from to draw from, a blank canvas, but. Was there something about the, collaborative spirit of inking and working with another penciler that you found, fulfilling?
I did. Yeah, I did. There were some pencilers that whose work I had to work even more intensely with, because the pencils were not as finished as other pencilers, and that disturbed me a little bit. But I got through it, and I did enjoy working on Alex Toth's work. His work was absolutely incredible, and probably one of the finest artists that ever lived that did comics, as far as I'm concerned. His layouts and his sense of blacks and compositions were just marvelous. It was an absolute joy to work on Alex Toth's work, and then there were artists like Infantino, who Carmine Infantino, whose work I had to work double time on because his pencils were not finished. They were layouts. They were loose layouts, and Joe Giella, sometimes Joe Giella and I would share the inking just so we can get through his stories. And we would be laughing through the story because it was so limited, how he got away with so little artwork and left the rest to the inkers. So we were laughing with a bitter laugh, you know.
But he was pretty talented, though.
Well, he was pretty talented. He was extremely talented in his layouts. He was a marvelous storyteller, I must say that. Mm-hmm. But if the pencils could be reproduced, then they should have been just reproduced. Because for an inker to ink over it, you really had to do double the work over most of the other pencils work. But we loved his layouts; they were marvelous.
Did you ever get any feedback from pencilers after you had inked over them?
Well, Toth said that I was his favorite inker, and that was great. That was an enormous compliment for me because you know how famous he became. So his association with me was just purely on an artistic level. I know he was not I heard that he was not an easy guy to get along with. He was had an enormous ego and made very strong demands and expected to be accepted by those demands. But I never ran into that with him. Ours was just merely a artistic experience, and I loved working on his work. I just totally enjoyed it, and he loved my work. So I felt very gratified working with him.
What was your research process when it came to a project? Was it magazines or taking your own photographs?
Well, I had, I think, 60 years of National Geographic for one thing. And of course, the Phantom strip called on the use of many animals, the drawing of many animals, and fitting them into your compositions. So the geographics were wonderful. We didn't have the research that we have now on computers. I got rid of all of my research. I had files of research. We called it a morgue. But it's just the stuff comes alive when you take it out of the cabinets, you know. Right. So it's dead while it's lying in there. But those were the research we had. I cut out pictures from magazines and what have you, Life magazine, Look magazine, all the wonderful books that we were able to capture pictures from. We used the New York Library, which was probably second best to the National Public Library in Washington. And now you just pick it up on the screen. You can just read. And so many different areas of research on your computer. It's just incredible. It has organized so nicely, so efficiently now that it takes much less time to research.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And we know you're very well known for the Phantom, having done it for over 30 years. But I'm curious for the, diehard Cy Barry fans, if you're looking back on your catalog, what else would you point them to? What other work would you say you're most proud of?
Well, I did work on Flash Gordon with my brother Dan. I did some beautiful stuff on that too, and then I penciled for about 2 years. I penciled and inked Flash Gordon before I got onto the Phantom. And then there were some stories. Now you're talking about penciling and inking, or just
whatever you'd like to highlight. Yeah.
Well, there was one particular story that I inked of I think it became a classic actually in comics. It had to do with a story that Toth did, and it had to do with a skiers up in the. I think it takes place in Tibet, or mountain climbers, and there's a cascade of snow that starts to bury the people, and it was a wonderful, wonderful story that he penciled, and he did an incredible job on the pencils, and he loved my inking on it, and it became noticed in the field by other artists. And they praised Alex and me, or the other artists, for having done such a wonderful job on this. Forgot the name of the story, but I think I do have a copy somewhere. If I find it, I would like to show it to you guys.
Definitely.
I would hope you will get a better visual than you did from this. Right. But and then some other things. I worked on Tarzan with Dan, Tarzan Daily.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed that much, and that very much. And then, of course, the highlight during my comic book career was doing romance stories.
Mm-hmm.
I began to really enjoy them. I didn't think I would. I preferred adventure stories, but as I got into it, I began to enjoy it very much.
The Phantom has such an iconic look. I'm wondering if someone said to you, "Cy, we want you to reimagine the Phantom and put them together the way you imagine it, the way you would want it to be." Would there be a difference between what we see and what you would do, or what would you do differently? No.
I brought it to that stage.
Oh.
I did gradually. I brought it to the point where I left it. And I don't think I could have improved on it or changed it. I wouldn't have wanted to change it.
What was your favorite part of the costume?
That was the eventual effect of what I wanted to do on the Phantom. You know, it was very strange. When I was a kid, I used to read the Phantom because that came out in 1936. And I was only about eight years old then. But through my childhood, I always read the Phantom, and I couldn't stand the style, the technique on it. The story was great. I love reading the stories. But I said, my God, why did he use an artist like that? Why don't they give it a real adventure look? You know, it should look more like Terry and the Pirates, or Flash Gordon, or any one of those wonderful adventure stories. So strangely, as life would have it, eventually I did become the artist in 1961, and it was my greatest wish throughout my childhood. You know, that I eventually do it, and it came true. And it's funny because I always said David was still hadn't been born yet when I got the strip, and but I said but my wife was carrying him at the time, and I said, Simmy, that little baby is a good omen to me. I said, my whole life is changing because I finally got the Phantom, and sure enough. And I thought the child was going to be another girl. I had two girls before, and it became a boy, and boy was I excited. I was so thrilled. But anyway, I always felt when I first started doing the first week of artwork that I did on the Phantom, I did in my own style, and I sent it to them, and they called me immediately, and they said, "Cy, the work is beautiful." They said, but it looks like Flash Gordon. They said, it doesn't look like the previous artist. So I said, do you mean I have to draw it like that? They said, well, if you could draw it with some semblance of it, we'd be, because the editors, I mean, there were like 500 editors that were looking at the script. And they said, they're going to be shocked to see an entirely different style. So I had to do the artwork all over again, that same week of work. And I had to rush it through. And I did it as simplistic a style as possibly could, with very little blacks. And I'm used to using blacks and giving it drama. And they said, well, that's a lot better. It's still a little bit like you. Well, I said, I can't do it now like that. So little by little, every week I changed it slightly, added a little more black to it, gave a little more mystery, drama to it, and started giving more expressions to the faces, because all the faces were stone faces that Wilson McCoy did. And then his animals, I mean, they were jokes. They were really jokes. They were something you find on children's birthday cards, you know, these animals. So then I began to introduce some National Geographic animals into my reference material. And little by little, I began to get more blacks and more drama. And I started to give, the important thing was, I started to give the Phantom an expressions of real anger, not stone face, happiness, laughing, smiling, angry, you know. So he became an individual. He became a person, not just a stone. And that was my purpose. My goal was to give some humanity, some human interest into it.
For you, is there a most striking or a favorite part of the costume that really stands out to you?
I'm not crazy about the shorts.
Okay.
I did not like the stripes on the shorts, and I was forced to put them in. I would ask Lee, please let me change the shorts now. Give me a reason to change the shorts. He said, well, they're familiar with it. The editors won't like it. I can't change the stripes. You can't change the stripes. So I had to continue with that. I like the deep belt, the thick belt that he wore. I like that feature. It did something for his body too, you know, for drawing his body. And I didn't want to make him a superhero character, you know, with a very muscular body. I just didn't see him as that. I saw him as a slimmer, bulky guy, very strong, but not an ultra exercise figure, you know, a weightlifter figure. I didn't want that. And I think he looked more humane, more human with that figure.
Makes sense.
Right.
And after 30 years of developing, you know, the look of the character and working on the Phantom, did you feel some ownership over the character itself? Like, did you continue to follow other artists that in your footsteps and, you know, say, oh, I would have done something a little different here? Or did you were you able to separate yourself and just enjoy the interpretations?
Well, because I felt I did develop my own style, and I didn't want to try to bring other techniques into my style. And I felt that if they accepted my style and my interpretation, if they accepted it, then I was satisfied with that. I lived with it. I was satisfied with that style. Oh, we lost you?
No,
we're here.
Where are we?
Oh, you're on Zoom.
I closed something with my mouse.
Oh.
I'm very sorry. Hold on.
Bro.
Sure, you're still here with us. You may just close the window.
Yeah.
So where's the window?
Maybe on the bottom.
You might have minimized it. Is there a little zoom thing on the bottom bar?
There we go.
There it is. It was on the bottom.
So sorry.
Yeah,
that's okay.
So I was very satisfied with my style, and I was accepted. And then I began getting mail and compliments and how much better the Phantom looks, and they love my style. And I got more and more mail. Please don't change anything. And it gave me more confidence that I was doing the kind of thing that I wanted to do, and other people were appreciating it.
And did you keep up with other, interpretations of the Phantom after you left?
Yes, I did keep up with other artists. I followed artists that took over, like Johnny Prentice took over Alex Raymond's Rip Kirby, and I followed those things. In fact, I met.
What about the Phantom, though?
About the Phantom?
No, when you left, did you follow
after I left? You're talking about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, after I left, I was well. The artist, there was a guy who would help me, George Olson, who would every time I wanted to double up on the strip, George would. He was a pretty good penciler, and he would do some rough layouts for me, and he was did very nice compositions. So he took over the penciling because I recommended him because he was good, good artist. So George Olson took it over, and Williams, Keith Williams, did the inking.
Mm-hmm.
And I did give Keith some suggestions about strengthening the inking and how to make it look a little more dramatic and that kind of thing, because it tended to ink George's work very faithfully. And George didn't work with many blacks. I mean, he was he was accustomed to doing very loose roughs.
Mm-hmm.
So when he had to pencil tightly, he didn't introduce very many blacks, and that's what Keith had to learn how to do to get more drama into it. He had to give it more power, more strength.
Well, yeah, that's an interesting, sort of trajectory after having left the book to have, some sort of influence on how the work would look, even despite you having retired and being able to, influence the next sort of generation of Phantom storytellers. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that was great. Do you continue to keep up with the different iterations of the Phantom?
No, I really haven't followed it for many years. I really haven't. In fact, I don't get the proofs anymore from King Features, and I don't know what newspapers they're in, so I don't get any copies of them. I haven't seen too much of the work that's being done since then. I know it's changed hands a few times.
Yeah. Well, I'd just like to say that we're so happy to speak with you this evening. When we first announced that we were speaking to you in January, the response we got on social media was huge. So much love. So many people were so excited to hear from you. So many wonderful stories about you. And we are so glad that you're doing this charity because it's going to help so many people. We'll put the links into the description so folks can follow it there too. So that would
be great.
That'd be great.
And thank you guys so much, not only for all the work you've done for comics, but especially for doing this to help so many people who can most definitely use it.
Well, we need people like you to keep us going, and it's so gratifying to have people following up our career even after I'm retired. It's so enlightening to me, and I'm deeply grateful. Well, and whatever you're doing for us is just wonderful. I'm so grateful to you.
Oh, well, we're happy to do it, and anything you need from us, please let us know. And again, Dave,
we may call on you.
we're here to help anytime you need us.
We'd love to give you the opportunity if you want to just give those details one more time for the audience, when and where they can find the auction.
Oh, yes.
Sure. So they can find us at drawforlife.org, and the online auction will be held starting July 1st on eBay. Well, you have to come through our website, but it's an eBay auction, and that runs through July 8th, and we're hoping that we'll get a good response.
Excellent.
I think you will.
And we are back. I absolutely love this cause and the whole idea of this this kind of fundraiser. It's an absolutely fantastic, just such a meaningful cause. I don't think anyone in this world doesn't know someone who is affected or knows someone who has been affected by cancer in some way. So to help those people, and specifically kids, it's, there's no better reason than to give to this.
Yeah, we encourage everybody to participate in this, whether you are an artist that can give some of your art for auction, whether you are bidding, whether you're just making a donation. It would be absolutely helpful, beneficial to what's going on there at the Dana-Farber Jimmy Fund Clinic, and could only help the cause. I'm going to give that web address again, even though it came up a couple times within the episode. It's called drawforlife.org, DRAWFORLIFE.org. You can go there, read a little bit more about the auction, make donations. There's an email address where you can get in touch if you want to donate some art. So encourage you to do all of that. And we'll wrap it up. That was Cy Barry and his son David. Again, the auction is happening July 1st to July 8th. Draw for Life. Please remember to rate and review and subscribe to this podcast, and we'll see you next time. Peace.